The Ragnaus reactions are starting to pour in.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you. It is another episode of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Tuesday, June 3rd, and Wednesday, June the 4th. Thanks for making us your first listen, everybody. Checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you as well to our everydayers that are out there watching on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Please subscribe or listening wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, or wherever. We appreciate all of you. A lot to discuss as we are here on a Tuesday. Yesterday's show was a bit of a downer, and it is to be expected. I've been doing the show, by the way, Matt Derry, welcome. Hello. Been doing the show for 9 years, since 2016. And I can't remember a time, not at least during the tenure of Locked On Lions, where we sat back and went, we're having another Barry moment. I guess, the Calvin Johnson retirement hit us too as well. But this one stings because Frank Ragnaus is in the prime of his career. And for him to step aside is a massive loss for this football team. Now, am I ready to just crown the Packers or the Vikings or the Bears as division champs and say, season's in trouble? No, I'm not. But I'm here to tell you that this is a major blow to this offense, which already had a blow to it, losing Ben Johnson, the architect of the offense, and the OC the last handful of years, to the Bears to be their head coach. So you've got an unproven guy in Johnny Morton, who's going to be running the offense as the OC. And now you're going to have likely an unproven player at center, possibly. We're going to get into that and talk about what some of the players said about Frank Ragnaus being out and retiring. Michael Spath, one of our everyday listeners, hit me up. You guys remember Spath for years on WTKA radio. He's an everydayer here on Locked On Lions. And he texted me an interesting question about Glascow that I want to get to. Yesterday, we went through a bevy of names, players that the Lions could elevate on the current roster, players the Lions could go get on the free agent market. Didn't mention this name. It's an unmentioned name that is my fault that I want to bring up. And we'll do our call of the day. You want to be our call of the day? You can do so by leaving a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Dairy podcast page. But the Lions have OTAs going on again this week. Media availability, I believe, is on Wednesday again. So we'll hear from some of the players, the coaches, and everything else, what the reporters are seeing out at practice. But the folks at Pride of Detroit did a great job of kind of finding a compilation of some of Frank Ragnaus' offensive lineman teammates and what they posted on social media, reacting to the news that the 29-year-old seven-year veteran and 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler was retiring. Graham Glascow checking in on the old Twitter machine, writing, quote, "Congrats to one of my all-time favorite teammates and a good friend. Best center I've ever seen play the game. Hell of a career. Frank Ragnaus." Taylor Decker, quote, tweeting the Adam Schefter tweet about the retirement with 2 words, gold jacket. Panay Sewell on Instagram, a picture of Ragnaus running out through the tunnel with the caption, "Best to ever do it." Taylor Decker posting the same picture with 3 hearts. Christian Mahogany posting, same picture, the best. Former Lion, Tyrell Crosby, great teammate and even better person. Congrats on a hell of a career. Jared Goff, the greatest, as he quoted Frank Ragnaus' Instagram. List goes on and on. Of all the players that have checked in, Craig Reynolds called him a legend. All right, so the respect factor of his teammates is unbelievable. Graham Glasgow is calling it the best center to ever do it. Taylor Decker saying gold jacket, Hall of Famer. Is Frank Ragnaus going to go into the Hall of Fame, only playing 7 years? And he was never a first-team All-Pro because, again, there have been some centers that have been out there, including Jason Kelsey, Creed Humphrey, the Chiefs, that have been ahead of him. But Frank Ragnaus put up an unbelievable career as a Lion. And I think eventually, I don't know if he's a Canton Hall of Famer and a Pro Football Hall of Famer, but is he going to be a part of the pride of the Lions one day? Hard to argue based on how good he is. And to get that kind of respect from your teammates, to hear your teammates call you the best to ever do it, is pretty strong. And, you know, I was texting with one of my crack research staffers today, and he brought up an interesting point and a very good point. Frank Ragnow made the players around him better, right? The Lions will now have 3 different right guards, most likely this year. Most likely there's a chance Graham Glasgow is back. No, they will. They're going to have 3 different right guards in 3 years. 2 years ago, Jonah Jackson. He then left to sign a massive contract with the Los Angeles Rams. This past season, Kevin Zeitler. And now this year, we don't know who's going to be the right guard. Glasgow could go back to right guard, but he was at left guard last year. Regardless, this coming season, you're going to have the 3rd different right guard starting in 3 years. Yet this offensive line, you give credit to Hank Fraley, you give credit to the coaching staff, you give credit to Dan Campbell. But when you've got a guy that's the quarterback of your O-line, the center that kind of gets everybody set, that is kind of the rock, the glue, that was playing with a torn pectoral muscle, a bruised lung, a fractured throat. Remember the game where Frank Ragnow admitted he was playing with a fractured throat and couldn't even bark out signals and literally had to like whisper stuff to Glasgow and the guys next to him on protections and everything up front? Incredible. So this is going to be a major loss for this football team. And we touched on it a little bit yesterday. What are they going to do? Immediately, Tate Ratlage's name has come to mind because he already took snaps at center in rookie minicamp, and he was snapping the football and playing center with the first unit during OTAs last week. This is a 2nd-round pick that they know is versatile. You know, they drafted him for versatility. They knew, the Lions knew. Look, people have been asking me, well, do you think the Lions knew that Ragnow was thinking about this? They do exit interviews with all the players. You don't think that Dan Campbell or Brad Holmes sitting down with Frank in January last year after they lost to the Commanders going, hey, listen, how's it going? What are you thinking? A year ago, you were thinking and contemplating retirement. Where are you at now? Frank Ragnow told them. You know he did. In his Instagram post yesterday, let me find it here real fast. Ragnow made a point of saying that he thanked the Lions for kind of their patience and everything else. Lions organization has been absolutely incredible throughout this process. And quote, I can't emphasize this enough, how grateful I am for this team and all the fans. End quote. And again, he's prioritizing his health and everything else. I hope there's nobody out there that is saying, I can't believe he's leaving the game. No, this guy's got mangled toes. He's got everything. Major issues, injury issues, and just a beat up body. And he's done. But the Lions prepared for this is my point. And I'm interested in seeing how Ratledge will do. But the Graham Glasgow question has to be asked. Why isn't it? This is what Spath was texting me about today. Why isn't it just a lock that Graham Glasgow moves back to center, where he started a bunch of games for the Lions at center and was the main cog at center. 16 games started back in 2018. Remember, Travis Swanson was the center before Glasgow. Graham has played mostly guard in his career, but I want to kind of dissect this Glasgow question and look at some of the numbers based off of PFF grades from when he had been a starting center. And we will do that coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. It is a Tuesday edition, everybody. Starting to warm up out there. Hope everybody's doing well. Last week of OTAs and the Lions shut down for a little while. They're not going to do a mandatory mini camp because they're moving training camp up. And I know there's a question about Alex Anzalone that we will get to in our call of the day. We'll do all of that coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means When it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Here's what you do. Post your job, all right? LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. It is a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. Matt Daria with you, talking Detroit Lions football, of course, every single day right here on Locked On Lions. Talked about it before. Many people, including Michael Spath, one of our everydayers, was like, wait a minute, why are we talking about Tate Ratlage moving to center? Why is there discussion about picking up a center in free agency or somebody that's been out there that has played the position before? What about Graham Glasgow? And why wouldn't it just be a natural fit to move the 32-year-old veteran who has center playing experience and center starting experience just in there and making him the guy? Well, first things first. As far as Graham Glasgow goes, last season, as we know, was one of his worst years in terms of production in the NFL. Graham Glasgow has now played for the Lions for 6 years, 2 different stints, and of course 3 years with the Denver Broncos. So he's been in the league now for 9 years. Graham Glasgow has put up excellent numbers, including in 2023, playing left guard, playing right guard, a 74.3 PFF grade, which was the highest of his career. Last year, playing playing left guard. He played right guard in 2023. Jonah Jackson was left guard. Glasgow moved to left guard to accommodate Zeitler, who played right guard last year. Let's get that straight. And Glasgow, especially in the second half of the season, really, really struggled and finished with a Pro Football Focus grade of 57.2, which is the second lowest of his career. Lowest being his rookie year of 2016 of 53.7. But if you recall, Graham Glasgow started his career as a left guard for the Lions his first 2 seasons. Then his third season, after Travis Swanson left, Glasgow started all 16 games for the Lions at center in 2018. And that season, he graded over a 70. He had a grade of 71.1, including a pass blocking grade of 74 and a run blocking grade of 70.5. So Graham Glasgow, the 1 year that he was a center and just exclusively a center, 2018 for the Lions, put up some pretty good numbers. Now, of course, that was the year that Frank Ragnaus played guard. And then the next season, they flip-flopped and moved Glasgow to right guard in 2019 and Ragnaus to his normal position that he played at Arkansas, of course, of center. In 2022, in 17 games, 13 as a starter with the Denver Broncos. In his last season in Denver, before the Broncos cut him for cap purposes, Glasgow played center and guard, and that was 2022. He graded out that year as a 59.3, struggled, and of course, Sean Payton came in and decided to make a change, and going into his last year of his contract, they decided to cut him as a cap casualty, and he came back in Detroit. So, to sit here and say, well, wait a minute, Glasgow's had success as a center. We just told you he has. In 2018, he graded out pretty well. But folks, that was like 7 years ago. And I think the Lions' concern is, I think they want to start Ratlage's clock right now as a center and see if he can do it. And so that's why right now, at least during minicamp and OTAs, he's getting these reps, because I think the Lions feel like they've got an elite player, or a possibly elite player, in Tate Ratlage, their second-round pick from Georgia. Whereas Graham Glasgow, yes, he's got center playing experience. Yes, he's somebody that can do the job. But I don't think the Lions feel like, based off of last year's production and how he's played 2 of the last 3 years. His last year in Denver, a 59 grade. Last year, this past season in Detroit, a 57 grade. They're seeing some regression there. And based upon how good this Lions offensive line has been, I don't think this club wants to regress. And I got another thought for you. I think there's a chance where the Lions go into the season with all 3 different interior offensive linemen starting from a year. Last year, you had Decker, Glascow, Ragnaus, Zeitler, Sewell. This year, you're going to have Decker, you're going to have Sewell. They could have a brand new left guard, a brand new center, and a brand new right guard. And I think there's a chance, and now this segues into my unmentioned name from yesterday. I think there's a chance that the Lions line up Christian Mahogany at left guard, Tate Ratlage at center, and a name that I didn't even mention on yesterday's show at right guard, and that is Giovanni Manu. Giovanni Manu, of course, last year was drafted, surprisingly enough, in the 4th round by the Lions after trading up to get him and never played. Nobody had heard of him. People were wondering, this kid out of Canada, why did the Lions move up to get him? They basically took a redshirt year for him last year. And, reports late in the season from reporters and people close to the team were that Giovanni Manu is somebody that was making strides and getting better. And then at the owners' meetings, I think in January or February, Ben Johnson was asked about Graham Glasgow and what his role would be this season based upon losing Kevin Zeitler, etc. And Campbell said, quote, "Man, we've talked about that. Go back to right. And is it Mahogany at left? Is it somebody we drafted? You're going to do your best to let these guys compete and see where they're at. I mean, do we try Manu at guard? That's a thought. So we're going to try to let these guys compete a little bit and move them around and see what's right." End quote. When Giovanni Manu was drafted by the Lions, Canadian reporters kind of all insinuated that they had heard that Manu eventually would play right guard for this team. Also, the Detroit Lions did not retain Kevin Zeitler. They could have paid him. They could have paid Kevin Zeitler what the Tennessee Titans paid him. They didn't. Is there a scenario where it is Decker, Mahogany, Ratlage, Manu, and Penei Sewell? Is that a scary proposition for some Lions fans who are used to? I mean, think about this for a second. This is a team that wants to go to the Super Bowl. This is a team that believes they can go to the Super Bowl. This is a team that has been built under Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell as offensive line first, setting the tone. Right? And they've had good offensive lines here. I mean, in Chicago, they're talking about the great addition of Jonah Jackson, like they just signed John Hanna. Okay. Or Lomas Brown. There you go. A scenario where you're going for it to try to get to the Super Bowl, and you would have a rookie playing center and basically a rookie playing guard, 2 very highly unproven players at positions they have not played before. Giovanni Manu played college ball in Canada and was a tackle. Tate Ratlage played 4 years at Georgia and was a guard. How big of a risk would it be to have Ratlage at center and Manu at right guard? And heck, Christian Mahogany wasn't a first-round pick either. It's a guy they took in the 6th round or 5th round, 6th round 2 years ago. And I like Christian Mahogany, and he played well last year when there were injuries to Ragnaus and Glasgow. Think about that for a second. Giovanni Manu as the secret sauce. Glasgow is the first guy off the bench. He's a swing player. Anybody gets hurt at guard, Graham's in. Ratlage struggles at center, Graham's in. Ratlage gets hurt, knock on wood, Graham's in. There's a reason they kept Glasgow around. He's a great locker room guy. He's a good teammate. He's living in Detroit year-round. But Giovanni Manu at right guard, Mahogany at left guard, and Ratlage at center, Don't forget where you heard this. I'm throwing this at you in early June. On June the 3rd, as I'm recording at night here. Don't rule it out. I think they like Manu. I think there's a reason why they moved up to get him last year. There's a reason why you never saw him on the field last year. They're getting him ready. Maybe he's the secret right guard this year. Didn't even mention him yesterday. That is shame on me. All right, let's get a call of the day in the mix. We'll do that coming up next right here. It is a Tuesday evening edition of a Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And folks, Tigers are playing the White Sox this week. Don't forget, after each and every Tigers and White Sox game, Locked On Sports Detroit on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts with our buddy Jake Riepma, who hosts the show. Jake is on doing the postcast. He's on after Lions games, Red Wings, Pistons, Tigers. Love those postcasts. You get instant reaction on Locked On Sports Detroit, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Check my guy, Jake Riepma, out. All right, everybody, time to do our call of the day. Again, this is where one of our everydayers, usually an everydayer, chimes in. You can be a call of the day as well by leaving a voicemail at www.speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. That is speakpipe.com/dairy, DERY podcast page. Lewis checking in, not Winthorpe, but Lewis checking in as today's call of the day. I hope you got that movie reference.
Good afternoon, Matt. Lewis Meeks here, second-time caller, everyday listener. Love your show. Look forward to it coming on every single day. Just real curious about the Alex Anzalone holdout, and I wanted to get your opinion on this. As you know, it seems like he's holding out. You know, he just has one more year on his contract, so he can definitely, you know, re-up if he's worth a whole bunch more money for a whole bunch more years. And I just wonder how you think the organization is looking at this in the sense that, like, you know, if he holds out just to get an extra $1 million per year, do they see that as potentially precedent setting, given that the organization, they pay their top players, they pay them fast, they pay them top of the market, they maintain their commitments when they say they're going to sign their, re-sign their homegrown talent. And just wondering if this is a precedent-setting thing that they want to stay firm so that they don't have 5, 6, 7 guys a year saying, hey, I think I'm worth $500,000 more this year. I need another $1 million in another 2 years on my contract. So just really fascinated by the situation and wondered what your thoughts are. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you to my man, Lewis Meeks, checking in, second-time caller right here on Locked On Lions. I hate this light that's behind me here. My part's unknown. I don't think there's a precedent setting. Here's what I think is going on with Alex Anzalone. Number one, OTAs, organized team activities, which every team has, are voluntary, meaning they are not mandatory. You are not going to be fined for missing them. You're not going to be scolded by the organization. They are voluntary, meaning you do not have to come. You do not have to be there. The Lions have had immensely good attendance. I was reading an article on MLive from Corey Woods about Grant Stewart, the linebacker that came over from the Colts, very good special teams player. And he's like, this is unbelievable being here. This is an unbelievably professional organization that you got to study. You got to be on your P's and Q's. OTAs are intense. And he came from the Colts. And I know the Colts last year had a really bad locker room. And it was a Shane Steichen, who I like, ran a country club. And supposedly that's changing this year in Indy. But Stewart was commenting about it. And so everybody shows up. You're now down to one player not being there. Ragnaus retires. You're now down to one player not being there, and that's Alex. I think what Alex is doing is what his agent is telling him to do, which is, you know what? Those are voluntary. It's not going to hurt you for not being there. Let's play a little game. Let's negotiate. And let's not show up and see what the Lions do. Let's see if we can get Brad Holmes on the phone. Let's see if we can work out a discussion with a Mike Disner or whatever, to get maybe an extension. That's all this is. It's a negotiating tactic. When it comes down to training camp in July, which is mandatory, let's see if Anzalone's not there then. Is this Alex asking for an extra $1 million for this season, like Lewis was asking? I'm not so sure. I think Alex wants to stay in Detroit. And I think he looks up and says, my gosh, they've taken care of veteran players here. Now, some of them are younger veterans, but Penei Sewell's been around, got paid. Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Kirby Joseph, Aleem McNeil. They're trying to get Hutchinson done. They've kept the players they need to keep. By the way, there was a video today of Jamison Williams just running right by Ennis Rakestraw. Oh, my God. Burnt him to a crisp. And the ball was even underthrown by Goff, and Rakestraw was nowhere to be found. But anyway, my point is, I think this is a negotiating tactic. I think Anzalone will be there for training camp. But I'm not sure the team is ready to invest long-term in a 30-plus-year-old linebacker when they've got a pretty good linebacking core as it is and some depth at that position. We'll have to see. But they love Alex. Dan Campbell said last week he's been talking to him, and they're communicating. This is not a I'm not showing up situation or I want an extra $1 million. I don't think that's the case. I think this is just a little bit of a ploy and a little game being played by the agent, telling the player, why don't you stay home this time? All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Lions. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.